What common myth pisses you off? That you have to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. It is a myth perpetuated TV and movies for the sake of drama, but not true in real life at all. Then it's a bad thing that a friend of my mom waited 24 hours after reporting a missing person. That lemmings will follow each other off a cliff. That's a myth perpetuated by a nature documentary which actually drove a herd off a cliff using their vehicles. That mother birds will reject a baby if you handle it because they can smell if you've touched it, while you should leave fledgling, small but feathery, birds alone unless there's immediate danger. Putting a naked little hatchling back in the nest is totally fine. Birds don't really have a sense of smell. Help the necky bird, save the duckling stuck in a grate, move the lost quail chick stuck in the road due to a high curb. They're gonna be fine. When I was a kid I once put a bird egg back in its nest and one of my relatives screamed at me and told me that now that bird will drop the egg and kill it cause I've touched it. I was so horrified and felt guilty that I destroyed a baby bird. You can tell a ladybug's age by counting its spots. Even as a kid this didn't make sense to me. Why tell your kid this? What's the point? I mean, sounds like a good way to keep one's kids occupied. Jimmy, I need a report on the ages of all ladybugs in the garden by the end of the day. Mommy and daddy will be researching the birds and the bees in the bedroom while you work. That lie detector tests are accurate. There's a reason they aren't admissible in court. They are completely unreliable. Even the creator made sure the public knew they weren't foolproof. People still take them at face value all the time. That irks me. Gum does not stay in your stomach for 7 years. Sure, swallowing a lot of gum isn't great and can cause problems in your digestive system, but it only takes a day or two to pass. What's funny about that is when I was kid and heard it, I took it as a challenge to only crap pink blobs of gum 7 years after. I was quite disappointed. That bipolar means you are happy 1 minute and sad the next minute. It's a disorder where you have episodes of depression and episodes of mania hypomania. These episodes last weeks, months, years. There's nothing about emotional lability at all. That's an entirely different disorder. That porcupines shoot their quills out. I've known educated people who have set live traps to catch nuisance raccoons near their chicken coop, only to catch a porcupine instead and then shoot it so it couldn't shoot the quills at them versus letting the poor thing out to freely walk away as it is harmless. The same goes for skunks. They aren't spiteful, and they do have to choose their battles wisely. They only have so much spray to use before having to wait more than a week to replenish. Bulls are angered by the color red. I believed this nonsense as a child thanks to popular cartoons and never realized why people were so rightfully disgusted by bullfighting. I believe it's actually the movement of the matador's flag that engages them, but I could be wrong on that. That Mr. Rogers was ex-military and that's why he wore a sweater due to sleeve tattoos and was so calm with kids. Maybe he was just paying attention to their needs and cared about his perception to them. I wonder if this originated as a mix-up between Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross, who was actually former military and disliked the job enough that he decided he would not raise his voice once he left. That someone with ASD autism is some savant superhuman in one specific subject. This is portrayed a lot in media. Most characters inserted into stories who have autism turn out to be some genius mathematician or expert musician or some other crap. I think it perpetuates a really detrimental stigma towards the demographic. Expecting others to have some niche superpower has some sort of trade-off, as though that person needs that magic quality to be a redeemable character. I think the reason why they possibly think this is because I've seen lots of people with ASD autism get really interested in something and in turn become very smart and talented at it, more than I or others would be. Musk didn't found Tesla. He just gave its founders a lot of money, enough to become Tesla's chairman, and then pushed the founders out. Even saw him referred to as Tesla's founder in an article about the potential Hertz deal the last couple of days. Very early huge investor, yes, but not really a founder. That you can't drive barefoot. It's not illegal anywhere in the United States and yet so many people think it is. It's such a strange thing to think is illegal. To be fair, when I was learning how to drive it did mention somewhere in the manual that it's dangerous to drive barefoot. That may be where the myth is getting perpetuated, so I really can't blame anyone for believing it. That only stupid people get involved in cults or fundamentalist religion. Cults and fundamentalist religion works because they indoctrinate people and manipulate people's weaknesses. It's not purely about intelligence. Or hammer it into your head since birth. That NASA spent millions to design a pen to work in zero gravity and that the Russians just brought a pencil. Americans so dumb. Graphite is electrically conductive and would short circuits. For anyone wondering, both the American and Soviet space programs originally used grease pencils as writing tools. An American company then invested about $1 million into developing a ballpoint pen that would work in zero gravity, eventually getting a patent for such a pen in 1965. NASA adopted the space pen in 1967 and the Soviets did so as well in 1969. That you can get a raise and wind up with a lower net income because of the tax brackets. That's not the way it works. On the topic of money, that employers can ban you from talking about your pay. They can put it in your contract all they want, but it's not enforceable and they can't legally do anything about it if you discuss pay with your co-workers. In the US, not sure about other countries. A person will never be aware that they're hallucinating. Sometimes, some folks, some situations or causes, but it's not one size fits all. That you need to wait 24 hours before reporting someone missing or that the police will not start searching until the first 24 hours is up. Most survival myths. Musk grows wherever has the best conditions. Animals can survive eating things that we can't. Not all civilization is downstream. Sometimes birds just go quiet. All weather is specific to certain locations. So sunset colors tell you nothing if you don't know local conditions. Most importantly, so much of the folksy balls is northern hemisphere only, often American only. You can't navigate with the North Star when you're south of the equator, and the sun is on your north side there too. I thought traveling downstream is more about keeping you from going in circles. Irradiated food causes cancer. No, actually, only radioactive food causes cancer. If you irradiate food in, let's say, a microwave, the radiations does not transfer into your body. Better dress warm. If you get too cold you might catch the flu. There have been many studies saying that it's not the temperature that makes us sick in the winter. It's the fact that we are all inside breathing the same air. I've corrected people so many times and they just nod, say okay, and keep talking about it like everything I said didn't happen. Yeah, and common cold is a virus, not some sort of magic crap that causes you sick because it's very cold. Many movie myths. Hero hits someone in the head and it's an instant KO. It takes a tremendous amount of power or a picture perfect hit to the jaw to cause this. Hero gets hit in the head and is awakened with water a convenient time later, fully cognitive. They have brain damage and likely internal cranial bleeding that could be fatal. Rear naked chokes equals death. It's a 20-second nap. Go on over to our fight porn and watch some people getting knocked out there. There's obviously a correlation between power and knockout, but it happens on surprisingly benign looking punches too. That we eat 7 spiders a year in our sleep. This one irks me so much. I'm 15 and had a full-blown argument with this grown man whether it was true or not. I was called an argumentative piece of crap. All it takes is a quick Google search. Yeah, everyone knows that's a statistical error because of spiders. Georg, who is an outlier and should not be counted. That if you uncoil human intestines and stretch them out they would wrap around the word 3.5x or something. I had an elementary school teacher teach this to my class and I remember back then thinking there's no way. I think it's supposed to be every strand of DNA in your body or something like that. My 4th grade teacher taught us that anything you swallow takes at least a minute to reach your stomach and 4 days to digest. I'm in my 40s now and have never forgotten at BC of how stupid it sounded even then. That Sphinx cats, the hairless ones, will get stuck to a glass surface by their bums and need to be removed with a spatula. I've had 3 of the little darlings and not once has that issue come up, even with them sitting on the glass coffee table. Who TF made that up? LMFAO. That the everyday consumers should feel responsible for all the pollution. It's just a ploy to get people to buy their product because it's better for the environment, which, don't get me wrong, can help in small ways, but really has a marginal effect on the problem. Most of the pollution is the fault of factories and other industrial enterprises. That if your income crosses into a higher tax bracket, you have to pay the higher tax rate on your entire income. You only pay the higher rate on the amount you exceeded the previous bracket. Autistic people are stupid, aka autism is the same thing as mental retardation. It's not. Autism is so much more complicated than just being an idiot. I know because I am autistic. So please stop calling me and other autistic people retarded. Same here. I'm autistic and that has absolutely no bearing on the fact that I'm an idiot. Corsets did not cause injury. They were not laced up so tight that women couldn't breathe. Corsets were simply the precursor to the bra, and while yes, there was a societal expectation that you'd wear one, as are bras today, you'd not be forced to wear it 24/7. The act of tight lacing, which is tightening the corset so tight that it makes you skinnier at the detriment of your own health, wasn't even a thing until the early 20th century. Structured garments, cradles, powers of bodies, stays, jumps, corset sects, have existed since the early 16th century. For context, you also wear something like shirt chemise whatever underneath them, because just like shoes, they'll rub if it's on bare skin. What's interesting is that the myth that corsets caused fainting and women wore them to change the way they look act was actually spread by men who wanted to undermine the female-led corsetry industry, so it cannot be taken seriously. TLDR. Corsets were not bad for you, they were long bras. You also need to wear something beneath them, or they'll rub, just like shoes. Wearing something underneath had the added benefit of keeping corsets cleaner so they could be worn for longer between washings, which was pretty much a godsend. Marilyn Manson removed a rib so he could suck his own dong. Now I'm one rib shy of a sandwich and still can't reach that mother. Weed's not bad for you. By all means, smoke it if you want, and I'm really not against people having a good time with it, but smoking crap is bad for you. Agreed. I'm 100% for it be legalized and used recreationally, but stop telling me it's going to cure my depression, anxiety, pain, etc. And stop saying people can't be allergic to it. Yes, they can. The movie Hercules uses Hercules' Roman name, Hercules, and everyone else has their Greek names, Zeus not Jupiter and such. The movie is riddled with inaccuracies too. Hera was the one trying to kill him, etc. Made him go insane and kill Meg and his kids etc. The idea that you have to wait 48 hours before reporting a missing person. If you are genuinely worried about someone, you should report it as soon as possible. And the fact that movies and TV shows insist on pushing that falsehood really bothers me. It's not a myth per se, but the way people conflate those stats about how the government permits a certain amount of say dead insects in our food. A lot of people take that as some kind of on average. That's not an average of what's in your food. That's the maximum amount allowed in your food, and is pretty much only something to watch out for in junk food. Your steaks, chickens, veggies, fruit, etc. isn't going to contain droppings or dead flies. Chocolate? Maybe. Your average meal probably doesn't contain anything like that. It's just processed food that runs a risk of that. But the stats aren't on averages, they're on what's permitted. That pregnant women can't work out, like I could have kept my fitness journey going this entire pregnancy instead of cancelling my gym membership. I've kept active, but it's not the same. You can keep your daily fitness routine, but I've heard upping it is a bad idea. It's not like pregnant prehistoric women weren't doing backbreaking labor picking berries. You'll definitely get rich and successful if you work hard enough. It implies that disadvantaged people are just lazy and ignores how social status and even basic luck play into one's achievements. You need the best, most expensive equipment to do well in your hobby profession. No, you freaking don't. If you can't take a good photo with your phone, you're not gonna get good with the most expensive camera and lens you can buy. I have a computer that takes 30 minutes to open and runs games pretty slowly, but it doesn't stop me programming and modding Minecraft. The Civil War was about states' rights. The worst part is that you can look up the Southern slave-holding states' documents of secession. You can literally read the reasons they gave to try to secede. The reason why it pisses me off is that after hearing for years people argue about the causes, I literally looked those documents up for the first time today. Slavery, or directly related topics, is consistently the main, if not only point given. In fact, the different states gave a pretty standard presentation in their declarations that they were p that the federal government wasn't enforcing rules on the northern states. Literally, they complained about how the non-slaveholding states weren't following federal laws. Go read them all. I encourage everyone to. Pretty much the only mention of states' rights are from arguing that states have the right to leave the union. No mentions of taxes, tariffs either. Add in all the other documents, speeches, and it is basically undeniable that it was all ultimately about slavery. Warren Buffett pays less in taxes than his secretary. This is something Buffett said regarding the difference in tax rates of capital gains versus ordinary income. In a nutshell, he was talking about the percentage tax rates, but people take it as the actual dollar amount of taxes he and his secretary pay. Dollar-wise, Buffett pays a fuckload more than his secretary. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.